Yo, what's up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Game Time here on the that's on the Game Time Sports Channel. I am the Outlaw, John Rocha, joined as always by the King of Swag himself, Winston A. Marshall. How are you, Winston?
You already know, baby. Both my baseball teams went to back World Series, which is funny. I'm going to go ahead and get out the way now because some people understood this and other people, as Christian went on his little rant on Capes Cows. I wasn't there and I went to the parade. So here's the thing. I have lived in Los Angeles the same amount of time that I have lived in Dallas, Texas at this point. I have now fully split them 18 years as is. Yeah. As most people, did you just throw on music for me to?
Yeah, go ahead, brother. Break it down.
As most people, you have your first love team. You have, whether that be the home team or the one your dad or your mom rooted for or played on or whatever that may be. And that will be, for me, the Dallas home teams. However, like most folks, when you move to a new area, when you have friends that support a thing, you sometimes find a secondary team that you like to support, right? I've been to more Dodger games in my life than I have Rangers games. I cannot believe you're doing this 90s R&B fucking backup ad-lib shit, you son of a bitch. I say all that to say that I genuinely do have love for the Dodgers, man. If they were pitted against the Rangers, I'm pulling for the Rangers all day. But if the Rangers ain't involved, you already know what it is. So I'm sorry your Yankees are trash. I'm sorry they didn't want to actually play baseball during the World Series. I'm sorry they want to be fucking lazy, that they want to sit here and have so many errors off of a lack of effort and fat men like that dude trying to seal the ball out of Mookie's hand instead of professional athletes. And now you're sitting at home after a gentleman's sweep. I'm sorry that happened to you, my guy, but I'm so happy. Yeah. I'm so happy that you and your family are happy back in the city that you were born and raised in. I'm happy that your Liberty, at least I like Liberty, they got a title. And who knows? You got Cat now. Maybe the Knicks can finally do something and get in the mix. Maybe they could try and take down Boston, because I know you don't like Boston. Maybe that could happen. But for now, the baseball dreams are dead.
Dead and buried, yeah.
Kind of like the Cowboys. That's a whole other conversation.
I started getting some little music there.
I can't believe you put that music on, bro. You ain't shit. You ain't shit. Oh, I'm gonna clip that out later.
Damn. Anyway, all right. Yeah, we are diving into the world of sports here over the next 90 minutes, having some fun talking. Primarily NFL Week 9. We threw in a little MLB, just a little residue from the World Series. Congrats to the Dodgers. Like Winston, also my second favorite team. Rangers being the first, but I had Dodgers season tickets for years. Saw them with Manny beat the Cubs there in that surprise playoff series. So I've always loved the Dodgers. Russell Martin, Kemp, all the guys that came through. Dave Roberts, even I remember cheering for Dave Roberts before I knew he was going to be a Yankee killer. Go to Boston, beat us, and then win the World Series as a manager against us. But hey, that's fun stuff. But you got to respect it. I believe the pinstripes. I cheered for my Yankees, but in the end, I'm happy for the Dodgers because we have 27 of them. So, whatever, man.
You said Rangers. You meant the Yankees.
Yeah, the Yankees are my team, is what I said. Yeah.
You said Rangers. I was like, you're also a Rangers fan. I was like, I would have sworn you said there was another team you were into, and I completely forgot that you're also a Yankee fan. But so then I apologize maybe for coming at you that strong. Just Christian had some words. So I had to go ahead and drop the remix on it. That's why that's the real reason you put the beat down. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. Ron Washington, man. Ron Washington. Yeah.
You ain't shit.
All right. Anyway, let's get into the NFL. Thank you all so much for joining us live. We appreciate you all madly. And those of you watching us later, we appreciate it as well. If you're watching right now, please remember to send in your Streamlabs. We have no super chats yet, as we're almost at that 1,000 subscribers mark. But subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the show already. But the Streamlabs address right above Winston and I's head on the graphic there. Sending you love, sending you questions, thoughts, and comments as we go along. All right, Winston, Week 9 in the NFL, a lot of stuff happened, but we got to start first off with the premier game of the weekend, in my opinion, and that was the Lions and the Packers doing battle there in rainy Lambeau Field. The Lions got the job done here, getting the victory 24-14. They are 7-1 now. Kirby Joseph scored on a 27-yard interception return, and the Lions converted 2 fourth downs into touchdowns to beat the Green Bay Packers 24-14. They have won at Lambeau Field for the third straight year. It's the first time they've done that since a run of 6 straight at Lambeau from 86 to 91. Jared Goff completed his first 11 passes finished 18 of 22 for 145 yards and a touchdown. Over his last 6 games, Jared Goff has completed 82.8% of his passes and has 140.1 passer rating. That is incredible. Jordan Love went 23 of 39 for 273 with an INT. And Jaden Reed had 5 catches for 113 yards, and Josh Jacobs ran for 95 yards. The Packers actually outgained the Lions here 411 to 261, but they wasted too many opportunities, drove down inside Detroit's 35-yard line on 3 possessions without scoring. And then the Packers' 4 trips into the red zone resulted in 1 touchdown and 2 field goals. It's not going to get the job done against the Lions team that right now seems to be one of the top premier teams in the NFC, if not the entire NFL. What are your thoughts coming out of this game here, Winston?
Dude, I can't believe I'm genuinely saying this because, again, a lot of doors have been opened for potential candidates. But if the season ended today, I'm already going to include the game that's about to be played this Monday afternoon. Jared Goff is the MVP.
I mean, that is crazy, right?
I'm sorry, but 1 loss to the team.
Yep.
I would need to do the math right now. Yeah. But as far as, let me see, hold on. Okay. So as far as before this game, he had more touchdowns in that 5-game span than he did incompletions.
Yeah.
That is insane.
That's amazing.
That is not something that happens. He is throwing at such an accurate clip right now that, again, if he ended the season, he would end with an 81.8% completion, bro. And at minimum is averaging 8.7 yards per pass. So I get that that's not necessarily hella ones downfield, but he knows when to use it.
Yep.
He knows when to hit Amon-Ra in stride, and that's proven in the fact that he's still getting these, like this past game, like the longest one on 20, it was 26 yards. But when you have that double-headed beast in Gibbs and Montgomery, you don't need to necessarily hit those bombs unless they're there. On top of knowing your matchup, the Texans' corners are mad good, and he's still pulled off an 81% completion rate here with a touchdown. Like, I am in shock that this is where we are at this moment. And that does not take away from Derrick Henry or Lamar Jackson and what they've done. But when you take into consideration that's a 2-time MVP and the generational running back, they kind of sap a little bit off of each other. It's not that Gibbs and Montgomery obviously aren't that good. They're very, very good.
Yeah.
But ask anyone, are you taking Gibbs and Montgomery or Derrick Henry? You're going to take Derrick Henry every time. You know what I'm saying? So that just goes to show how deadly the two of them are. So just by the nature of kind of sapping off of each other, Jared Goff is doing something we just haven't seen from somebody of kind of his resume. Let's put it that way. We've seen performances like this. But considering his resume, even though he's made it to an NFC championship game, even though he's made it to a Super Bowl, when you look at how he was treated being kicked out of Los Angeles, all the things that have happened, he has helped turn this program around. He has been a staunch cornerstone, as Dan Campbell has really made them front runners, and then went up against a division rival that has owned your ass for years, and you stuck it to him and it just showed everyone again that you are the team to beat in the NFC. Period. Like, I would genuinely, if I'm the Chiefs, I still think that they kind of have that favorite thing going. But if I'm the Chiefs, I'm terrified if the Lions make it out of the NFC Championship game, and that's who I'm playing in the Super Bowl. I'm genuinely worried. Because the Eagles, understandably, but not nearly as scary in my opinion. The 49ers, just because they seem to always get in their own way when they get to the Super Bowl, and you've now beaten them twice. There is something here, considering the last time you played the Lions, they embarrassed you the season opener. This is the only team that the Chiefs should take pause if they do need to play them in the Super Bowl. But my mind is blown.
It's a crazy little world in the NFL, right? Brad Johnson, a journeyman for years and years and years, who played reasonably well for a majority of his stops, ends up in that Super Bowl and gets a W, right? So you look at Jared Goff, he was in that Super Bowl before, didn't do so well against the Patriots. And as you said, Winston, there was a lot of bloom off the rose with Jared Goff. He went to Detroit almost as an afterthought in that trade. Like they were like, okay, we get a young quarterback. Let's see what he can do. But really, we just need to send Stafford someplace where he can win a Super Bowl to thank him for being our quarterback. They did that. But Goff here is showing that he has learned, he has thrived under Dan Campbell. And look, they almost got into that Super Bowl last year. 2 years before that, or a year before that, we thought that they, or at least I thought they were kind of a dark horse candidate if they'd gotten into the playoffs, but on the last game of the season, they couldn't quite get into the playoffs. Now you've got the next level of this situation here. They're 7-1. That loss looks like an anomaly to the Buccaneers now, and you're seeing them hitting on all cylinders and marching into Lambeau in the rain and just manhandling the Packers from beginning to end. I think that speaks volumes of the kind of confidence that's growing with this team. They're taking their personality from their coach and they're putting that out on the field. And Goff, he only threw for 100 and something yards. He didn't need to throw for 300 yards because that team is stacked defensively and offensively, and they're ready to go. I would be frightened to play this team in the playoffs at any point down the road here going forward because they look like they had to score away. The only negative I would look at here is Amon-Ra St. Brown is their only really big star receiver. And if anything happens to him, knock on wood, then there's going to be questions asked of the offense and asked of Goff if he can make it work without Amon-Ra. And that's the way I look at this as any potential roadblock down the road.
I hear you, and I think two things has to happen. I don't know what's been going on with Laporta, that he really isn't the same dude that he was.
They haven't been targeting him as much. They have not been targeting him as much.
He only had 3 targets this game, so that was frustrating for me because I contemplated playing Taysom Hill, but I was like, nah, dude, Laporta's still the guy. I can't not play Laporta. Right. But then the follow-up to that would just be that, like, I know Jameson Williams is that dude. Was he hurt this game? Because I don't see on the stat sheet he even got targeted at all. I didn't watch this game directly. I just watched highlights and looked at the box score. But I would also not be surprised. The trade deadline is tomorrow. I would not be surprised if Detroit, in a final push, because every one of their major competitors that are Super Bowl contenders went and got a receiver. Baltimore went and got a receiver out of Carolina. The Bills went and got a receiver out of Cleveland. The Chiefs went and got a receiver out of Tennessee. If I'm the Lions, I look and see what team is deciding they're pretty much done, or they're rebuilding a little bit, or really want to hand somebody, thank you for your service. Here's an opportunity to go shoot your shot. I'm very curious to see if they are able to convince someone to give them a secondary threat. And if they do, then I think it's lights out. I don't think anybody's stopping them because while the Niners look prepped, I'm sure after this bye week, there's talks that CMC is finally back in the practice window. I'm sure that they're going to start their resurgence. You have to set up Goff in that offense to make sure they are ready to deal with them when it's time. And I think having that secondary option there, and that doesn't take away from Williams, but look at what the Chiefs have done and how they've maintained an undefeated season so far. Because they decided, we believe in Xavier. He's going to do the damn thing, but we lost a lot. So let's just rebuff our offense. Let's just make it happen. So I hope they do.
Yeah, Jameson Williams was suspended for 2 games for performing enhancing drugs. But I think your point makes sense because he was also he's facing a concealed weapons charge, which he was also accused of last week. So there could be a situation here where Jameson misses more time. Campbell said he's going to be back in time to face the Texans this weekend, but it's a strong question to ask here if Jameson is going to be available to be that 1-2 punch with Amon-Ra St. Brown. So we will see what the end result of that is. But I agree with you. If I'm the Lions, I'm kicking some tires and seeing who's available and see if we can work out a deal just in case. There are a lot of unhappy receivers on some shitty teams right now that would be quite happy to jump over to play for the Lions, Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. So just questions you got to take a look at here. But on the other side here, what about the Packers, man? Jordan Love now, do you think he's more injured than he's letting on? He can play, but he's not playing at the top level. I mean, 4 trips into the red zone, 1 touchdown, 2 field goals, 4 trips in the 35-yard line, three that give you nothing and 1 interception. I mean, these are questions that you need to start asking about the offense at home against a formidable team like the Lions.
I mean, I would say you're not doing anything without Jordan Love.
That's
I
for sure.
think I think you're already dealing with the tough division.
Yeah.
It's not that you don't want to take this game. You clearly do.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful about not re-agitating what's going on.
Right.
So
Right.
I think you gotta play it safe with them. You need to win. You can't lose games, but you gotta be very careful, because the last thing you want to do is end up like the situation Dallas is now in. You know what I'm saying? Where, like, your starter who you just paid a lot of money for, your starting quarterback, is now dead to you, and you have to figure it out without him. We didn't have prospects already because of our record, but you're sitting at 6-3. You can easily take one of those wild card slots. I don't think that it's possible, but I don't think the Packers are taking the division. I think it's the Lions to lose, and I honestly think that the Vikings are next up there, just because of consistent play and less injuries than what the Packers have been kind of dealing with. But they'll make the playoffs. You're gonna need Jordan to be healthy when it's time.
I know there's questions to be asked because they're at Chicago next week, and of course, right now Chicago's been on a 2-game losing streak, and they look terrible against these Cardinals. So, is something going? Has has Caleb regressed a little bit? We will see. It's a long season. Then they got San Fran. Then they've got Miami. Then they're back at Detroit. Then they're at Seattle, New Orleans, at Minnesota, and then Chicago. So could be a tough stretch. I don't think it's a given that they get this wild card. I think it's going to be a struggle and a fight for them to get this wild card, because Minnesota's sitting right there as well, dancing around the area. And so I don't know necessarily that they're out. And the Eagles are in, the Commanders are looking at, so those two could be battling for division and wild card spots in the NFC East. So it's something to consider. The Packers, I don't think it's a given at all. I think there are questions to be asked now of the Packers and seeing where they're going,
But it's also bye week. Like that's time for Jordan to go get healthy. It's bye week time. He can go get some rest. You can get your receivers that have been kind of on a revolving door of injuries themselves. Like Christian Watson hasn't been able to stay healthy since his rookie season. He's always got something. Totally, so you give him a little time to get that back together, and him and Jordan can get on the same page. Romeo obviously had the behavioral thing, but he's back and he's doing what he needs to do. Like, I think you're just giving yourself time to really get there. And finally, you found this new weapon in Kraft. So that just also gives you more time to get lined up and synced and whatnot. But Chicago, we said this. Nobody was expecting Chicago to become an instant contender. If you were, I feel like you were smoking something. Nobody expected Washington to do that. That's just something magical happening over there. You know what I'm saying? That's just something magical that's happening on top of the fact that there is a collapse happening in Dallas, which gave you a window to kind of snatch that secondary place, but you actually took the first place spot. So, like, I think that for now, but I know the Eagles are starting to roll, but there's something in the water this year that, like, if I were to place bets right now, I think that you take the division. Ooh. I think the Eagles go farther just because of experience, but I think you take the division. If I'm just calling a spade here, I don't think anybody in the NFC, with the exception of the Niners, if they get fully back to what their Super Bowl form was last year, that's the only team I see really taking the Lions out. I don't believe the Eagles can really do it. The Rams are having a resurgence. I don't think they can do it. I genuinely think that the cream of the crop, the number one team that's coming out of the NFC is the Lions. That's just where I'm at this particular juncture.
I can totally understand that. I can see that. I mean, look, I love Jaden, and I think Jaden's got great composure. But our run defense, we have to ask questions of our run defense. I mean, the New York Giants shredded us in that first half. We locked it down in the second half, only 24 yards in the second half, but that's a weakness. And if you're facing teams like that have Saquon Barkley and have what they have on the Giants, I mean, this is a scary situation. So I think we're gonna playoffs, maybe win the division, maybe get win the first round or what have you, or win our first playoff game. But then we're probably going to end up losing because those things get exposed in playoffs. And so we will see how it goes down the road. But I like the composure of Daniels. We'll talk about it later. And so we'll see. But Philadelphia, as you said, is starting to roll. So let's move on to their game here. Saquon Barkley shined like crazy with a backward leap that we're going to take a look at in just a second. 2 touchdowns to help the Eagles hold on against the Jacksonville Jaguars at home, 28-23. Don't get it twisted. For all the amazing stuff coming out of this game from Saquon Barkley, the Jaguars almost won it at the end if it hadn't been for a boneheaded throw from Trevor Lawrence. Barkley had
Right.
27 carries for 159 yards and a touchdown. He had 3 receptions for 40 yards and a beautiful 20-yard touchdown catch as well. The Eagles went 0-2 for fourth down and were 0-3 on 2-point conversions for the game, forced them to let Jake Elliott try a 57-yard field goal with 2:16 left in the game. The Jags had the ball at the Eagles 13 with seconds left in the game, possibly going in for the winning touchdown. But as I said, Trevor Lawrence threw a terrible pass that was intercepted, ended up ending the rally. Jalen was 18 of 24 for 230 yards, threw for 2 scores, ran for another. Devontae Smith had a beautiful 25-yard touchdown grab. And Trevor Lawrence, I think it was 16 of 31. Dude, that's like below 50% for 169 yards and 2 interceptions. He did run for 2 touchdowns. So for all the talk about these Eagles, they still almost lost to the Jaguars at home here, Winston A. So what do you take away from this game? And we'll take a look at Saquon's jump in just a second.
That is why I don't think that the Eagles have the sauce to make the Super Bowl. They have the sauce to make the playoffs, clearly.
Yeah.
That you have too much firepower, especially if everybody's healthy. Jalen looks like he's kind of turned the corner.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said that we're in the same space where the Eagles are allowing people to get too close to unseating them.
Yeah.
That is not a winning championship formula. That should only happen in championship mode because you're playing Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson and the Ravens in the fucking Super Bowl, so you're dealing with the best of the best, so it's going to be close. You would expect when you get to the championship game, it's close. When you're playing a 2-7 team, they have no business being even close coming back, even if one little fumble happened to do that. Because when someone goes, the officiating let him back in, I just watched the Ravens destroy the Broncos 40-something to 10. Okay. Like that's what I'm saying is that you have not gotten to a place of rare air where you're untouchable. You are letting teams that have no business touching you touch you. And that is why I give them so much credit now where I'm like, you're on a roll. You're definitely making the playoffs. You'll probably go deep because of your experience. But I don't believe that they can win the Super Bowl because things like this happen. Even when you add a Saquon, if you start to stop doing this, if you only are winning close games against good teams, but then bad teams you're destroying, you're showing me like in a very strong fashion, you got this on lock, I'll feel a little differently. But that was the main criticism last year with the Cowboys that people had. They were like, okay, you're really beating on bad teams. You're either barely beating like mid to good teams, and you typically are getting destroyed by the teams that actually had a shot at, like, we barely beat the Lions, and that was on some lucky shit last year, you know? Like that's part of what I'm talking about. That is not the formula to win it all. It's just not.
I agree. There are questions to be asked for sure. And I think that's where you look at the situation and wonder about how they're going to put it together. But let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this.
But let's take it. But before you play it, Boogie's saying stop moving the goalposts. I thought the goalpost for you was to win the Super Bowl. The first thing I said is that I didn't necessarily believe that the Eagles had turned it around yet. I just said that I believe now that they've turned it around. Now that we've finished lesson 1, it's time to move on to lesson 2. If you want to win the Super Bowl, you have got to start winning in full convincing fashion. That is the only thing I'm saying. If you 100%. Feel like that's too mean, or that as a Dallas Cowboys fan, I'm just jaded, by all means, okay, yes, I said kind of literally because of that, because I do not believe yet that they are at the Super Bowl level that they were a few years ago. There are things that need to switch. Okay, let's see this ball because this was insane. How did the Giants let this video go?
Let's go to the video. It's 3rd and 6. Here's Saquon. He's going to pass out of the backfield. Now I'm going to turn this down. Now he makes the move here. This is and God did he know? Homie was coming for
crazy. That's crazy. I feel like the only reason he was doing all of this and he was able to do all this, this was Shady McCoy Day. This is the day he was inducted into the Eagles. He was inducted into the Eagles Ring of Honor. Shady used to do his little, so he hit the same thing but with the spin move. And then while he was there, he's like, I ain't got time to spin again. Like that is insane. That is so crazy. I am so happy I have him in the one fantasy league that talks the most shit.
Yeah.
And I'm also so sad as a Cowboys fan. We couldn't get him. We couldn't get Derrick Henry. We couldn't get nobody. You just let the Eagles just go steal Barkley. God damn it, I hate Jerry Jones. That is actually what came out of this.
I love
exactly.
Giants. Amazing.
Oh my god.
I
Oh
mean,
my god.
this team wouldn't be anywhere near as good if it wasn't for Saquon. I'm telling you right now. Jalen Hurts has shown his proclivity to mess things up, to not convert important downs. The defense has been shaky at times. There's no way this team is still competing with the Commanders for first place of the NFC East if it wasn't for Saquon. He's absolutely been incredible here for this team and elevated the team and showed up when he needed to show up throughout the first few games of the season. And so, yeah, great stuff here from Saquon. But then again, he did have that fumble that was returned for a touchdown. So, Winston, a lot of people complaining about this fumble. Do we think this was a fumble? Let's take a look at this thing. So here it is. Let me take a look. Here we go. So he's going down sitting. So he hits right here. He hits the butt of his lineman, and we can see him going down. It looks like he has control of the ball, then hits the ground, then the ball comes out. So a lot of people were saying that was the ground causing a fumble. That can't be.
Hold on. Go back just a hair, because the way to answer that question is, I know you said he ran into his own lineman, but if he was touched by a Jaguar, then that should be down by contact.
Yeah.
And you can't fumble from the ground. But if he wasn't touched by anybody, if he just ran into his dude, then that's a fumble, because you're not a dead player essentially if you hit the ground. So let me see it again.
So here's the ball coming down. So he is right there is where he hits but look, you can see the ball only comes out when he hits the ground.
No, but nobody touched him. No Jaguar, at least from that angle. It looks like he just ran into his player, in which case that is a fumble.
I see what you're saying. You're saying because nobody touched him, so he's not down. So if he loses the ball, then the ball is a fumble. Right.
That's what I'm saying. I go back one more time. I just didn't see it.
Sure.
If I like, maybe I missed it.
Let's go a little bit closer here. Let me find the closer shot here. Here we go.
Because if no defensive player touched him, okay, slow. Let me see there's his leg.
Yeah,
it is so hard to tell in that scrum, bro.
I know.
Go back one more time, because maybe we can look at the pinstripe.
There's got to be another one where you can see it from the side. I thought I saw one where you can see it from the side. Oh, here we go.
So let's see.
Maybe he was down, because you see the hand right there.
If he's touching him, then that's a wrap. That's not a fumble. That's down by contact. Literally, that's how it works. If that's the case, then that's down by contact, and that's a bullshit call.
Don't they review these?
They do, but they do. But my guess is, if they're looking at all the different angles and stuff like that, and they're like, we don't have enough to overturn it, then you know what I'm saying? It has to be blatant for them to overturn shit. And so I feel like because they didn't, they just said, nah, fuck it, we'll keep it as is. So, but yeah, I look. Yeah, like I said, the Eagles are one of the most talented teams on paper. And I would agree with what you said. The actual issue, in my opinion, is I still don't think that Sirianni is the right guy. I agree with you 100%. I think this is one of those things. My dad is a massive golfer. He's been obsessed with golf ever since he started, his mid-20s, because he knew that was like the business thing to do. That a lot of deals were made on the golf course, right? So he got super into Tiger Woods. He was always telling me about him and all that kind of stuff. And my dad used to tell me that for Tiger, he'd say drive the ball 350 yards, right? But a lot of the courses are now because they're trying to Tigerfy him. They'd be like, all right, well, now he's got to be able to hit the ball, 400 yards. So what would end up happening is that you would end up having to break your shot completely down. So you actually get worse for a while and then build it back up. And ultimately you end up better. I think that Nick Sirianni is y'all's 300-yard drive. If you drop Sirianni, and it reminds me of what they did with Mark Jackson in Golden State, and then went and got Kerr, you're going to regress for a second, and then you really look like the team that could take it to the next level. I just don't think Sirianni is the guy. I think you have kind of hit your max cap with him. I could be wrong. Maybe he learned something in the last few weeks, but watching how he acts with fans, watching how he's more kind of concerned about being like, hey, get out my motherfucking face, than actually doing the things to get y'all to that next upper echelon. Y'all just feel too much like me, like these super fire-powered Dallas Cowboys teams that when it's actually time to finish the job, to finish the fight, your coach is not the guy that's going to get you there. Yeah, that is my concern. And that is a fully just just fully objective statement. Nick Sirianni hasn't really shown me that he can make it happen. But who knows? Maybe he'll prove the whole world wrong. We'll see.
There's too much drama on the sideline. And that affects games. That affects coaching decisions. That affects players, And so I think that's where, it works in the regular season. It's fine. He can be the Joker in the regular season and get the W's because he's got a very talented team. But once you get in the playoffs, shit gets tight. And every single decision is micromanaged. And if you're sitting out here being unsettled or have thin skin, you're going to get fucked. And that's how it works in the NFL. We've seen it happen so many times. So, yeah, these are questions. Even Phillies, even Eagles fans don't trust him, man.
Like Boogie said, his game management is horrible. And that's actually what 2 or 3 years ago, when we lost to the Niners the first time, that is literally why we lost in our first playoff game against them, is because he was so bad at time management, using the timeouts, and didn't even properly prepare Dak and the team on how to make sure to get it done, to give the ball to the ref.
Yeah.
So that he can check it and go. We lost off of time. Any opportunity to finish it because you were rolling was done.
Yeah.
I will never forget it. So that's the whole thing. I am concerned that by the way Sirianni does all certain things and all that, that it is what it is. Because again, people saying the Eagles players responded to Sirianni, the Warriors players responded to Mark Jackson, but Steve Kerr did something different. And he took what was a very talented core to a championship caliber team. It was championship level talent, but then they became a championship level team by having the right guy to take them there. I do not believe in Sirianni like that. He has not shown me the right things and instilled confidence in how he manages the clock and manages the game and can compose himself to get the players to the promised land. That's just how I see it. But
as you said, and manages himself. You don't even have faith in how he manages himself. And then that's a danger with an NFL coach for sure. Sean Brennan just shut up and said, "Hey guys, sorry I'm late. All right, restart the show. Let's do the first 30 minutes anti-Chiefs."
Okay, so here's what we said. Fuck the Chiefs, all right? Patrick Mahomes is washed. Travis Kelce is washed. Andy Reid is washed. Go ahead and send the motherfuckers to the dry cleaners. They're fucking done. They're losing their first game in Tampa Bay. Like, that's all the shit we said. We didn't talk about nothing else.
Nothing else. Xavier Worthy is a bust. You missed. You finished. Let's move on to a team that isn't finished. The Baltimore Ravens bouncing back here with a fantastic game, destroying these Broncos, dude. 41-10. The Ravens are a different team at home than they are on the road here, man. Lamar Jackson completed, dude, only 16 of 19 passes for 280 yards and 3 touchdowns to finish with a perfect passer rating of 158.3. It was the 4th of his career. That is the most of any player in games with at least 15 pass attempts of all quarterbacks ever in the history of the NFL. That is amazing. Derrick Henry scored the 100th and 101st rushing touchdowns of his career. He surpassed 1,000 yards on the ground already on the season for the 6th time in his career. He has scored in every game this season, and he is the 3rd player to manage at least 10 rushing touchdowns in 7 consecutive years, joining LT and all-day AP, Adrian Peterson. And the Ravens scored on 7 consecutive possessions on the way to this victory here. Zay Flowers had 5 catches for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right, he did.
It's crazy. Derrick Henry had rushed for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns, man. Bo Nix, though, wasn't bad initially, but then he just could not get this team going. And Bo Nix, he threw for 223 yards, which brought his season total to 1,753 yards, surpassing Mickey Slaughter, who no one remembers, for the most yards passing by a Broncos rookie QB. He already passed John Elway 70 yards ago for his entire season in 1993 as a rookie, John Elway. So this bodes well for Bo Nix. And look, the Broncos are 5-4. This is a tough loss. This is clearly a better team. But the Ravens, again, at home, the Ravens look unstoppable. On the road against Cleveland is where you have questions. But at home, like they did with my Commanders, they can control games and get those victories with their high-powered offense. What do you take away from these two teams in this game, brother?
I think it's the same thing that happens with I'm trying to remember what the other team I was watching, that their strength is they can't play from. Oh, it was actually the Dodgers. They do not do well playing from behind. They do not do well. They have to score first and keep the pressure on, which is why, honestly, the way they won the World Series was very storybook, and it just goes to show how bad of a collapse, not to rub it in, how bad of a collapse the Yankees had in that fifth inning, because they know that that's their weakness. They know their weakness is they do not do well playing from behind, and yet they made it work. The Ravens have yet to show that if they are behind, they can get it done like that, right?
100%.
But if they get ahead, if they start off ahead, you're in trouble, because now you're not going to ask Lamar to do crazy heroics. You're just going to ask him to go play his game. Derrick Henry is going to be able to do whatever the hell he wants, because now it's like, oh, I just get to chew up clock, bitch, please. You know what I'm saying? You have to almost take Derrick out of, because Derrick's like a decent pass catcher, but that is not his strength. Like, if we're being real, it's really not. You're going to look to Justice for that a little bit more than you would Derrick. And so that also sends a message. Oh, if Justice is in and Derrick isn't in, they're probably not gonna throw this ball. So just like do the best you can to stack the box if Derrick is in. But they're probably gonna, like, there are little signs that you're gonna send, and if they're playing from behind, they're a little more desperate. You know what I'm saying? So that is where you end up in a situation like with Cleveland, a team that anybody in your division is gonna be able to give you the business one way or the other, especially once you get rid of who truly was the issue, and Deshaun Watson just being dog shit.
Oh God.
Like, in my opinion, Jameis should have stayed in New Orleans and been the starter, not Derek Carr. But they were mad because he went and got his homie a roster bonus by scoring a touchdown. You know what I'm saying? So, like, they shipped him off. So I'm not surprised that Jameis was able to put together a solid game against a division rival and make stuff happen, right? So the Ravens still look like it's going to be probably them and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, a rematch of the last AFC Championship. It doesn't mean that the Bills can't come out of nowhere. The Bengals look like they want us to make sure everybody knows who the F they are before this is over, and the Steelers are still up in the mix, right? But I'm actually really interested to see what the Ravens do, because once you get to playoff ball, you're going to face teams that also know how to score points consistently. I'm really curious to see, even though they've got a good rush defense, if their air defense can hold up and allow Lamar to cook instead of having to feel like he's having to make, he could just make like a quick little meal for himself instead of feel like he's got to make a buffet of points in order to get out of this.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, you look at the AFC, it's the Chiefs, the Bills, the Steelers, the Texans, the Ravens, and the Chargers, in that order, the top six. That's what you're looking at there on the AFC side of things. So the Ravens are at fifth here, being at 6-3, but only one game off of this. Everyone else, I can't believe they're behind Pittsburgh. It's kind of mind blowing that they're behind Pittsburgh with as much of a insane quarterback situation that they have over there in the division. But they got to keep winning, clearly, because Pittsburgh keeps eking out these victories, and we'll see how they do against my Commanders this week. And it'll be an interesting game for sure. But this is a situation where the Ravens are forced to keep winning here, and certainly having to destroy these Broncos and shake their confidence. I don't know where the Broncos go from it, because Broncos had a very strong defense coming into. They were top defense in the league coming into this game, and they just allowed 41 points. So that's a hell of a thing to mess with your head. Either they blow it off and go, it's a one-off, it's an anomaly, it's Lamar, blah, 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 or this kind of shakes their confidence a little bit, as we've seen with the Bears this week and other teams when they take these kinds of losses, man. So it's going to be interesting to see how they respond to this whole thing for sure. So
we'll I think the other thing that helps Pittsburgh in this regard, to be honest with you, is that, like, they had a worse record last season, so that means they have an easier schedule. Good point. That's the first thing. And the second, a lot of those games that were easier for them to win came in the front end. Like, I mean, the Falcons aren't bad, but they're not good. Nobody really in the NFC South is good, except for, at least consistently, Tampa Bay. But let's see if that remains with both of your wide receivers probably done for the season. I think Godwin is for sure, and Evans, they're not sure. Like, it's a hamstring, so it could be a couple weeks, if I remember correctly. Broncos, they're still finding who they are. The Chargers, they're good, but they're figuring out who they are. The Colts, that was a weird loss there. The Cowboys, that was also a weird loss considering where we're at, but that was when you realize, okay, Justin can't give us everything we need. And then now the Raiders aren't good. The Jets aren't good. The Giants aren't good. You've got some tests. Commanders, Ravens. You got to play the Browns. That's another. It's what, 1, 2, 3, 4 division games in a row. That's gonna be crazy. Then you got to deal with the Eagles, who are definitely gonna make the playoffs. You got to play the Ravens again. You got to play the Chiefs, and then the Bengals, who are gonna be mad trying to make sure that they stay in the playoff picture. Like, That is a hellscape of games that the Pittsburgh just hasn't had to play yet. And
Nope.
the Ravens already have had to go up against the Bills, which they won. They already had to play the Bengals, which they barely won, but they won. They beat you guys. Like, they've had to play harder teams, and things will lighten up a little bit for them as they kind of close this out.
Yeah. Going to be interesting to see for sure. I mean, I think Tomlin's going to be a real challenge over these next few games. But as we've seen, Winston, you don't know what can happen in divisional games. So you never know what upsets can be pulled here by the Steelers in some way. Yeah.
I'm hoping Trey Lance gets put in against y'all both times, and we beat you both times with Trey Lance. Nothing would make me laugh harder. That we get nothing else to laugh about except beating the Washington Commanders both times with Trey Lance.
I feel bad for Trey Lance against Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner used him like a toothpick. It would not be good. It would not be good. And you know it. You know it. Bobby like, all right. Anyway, moving on. Let's move on to Buffalo here, man. Tyler Bass kicked a 61-yard field goal. By the way, with room to spare, it landed in the first few rows of the stadium after he kicked it through the uprights there with 5 seconds left to give Buffalo a much-deserved and a hard-won victory over the Dolphins here, 30-27. That was the longest of Bass's career. It broke the franchise record by 2 yards. Steve Christie had kicked the field goal a 59-yarder in 1993. That's how long it's been around. But this was a hell of a game back and forth. I know the Dolphins' record is not that strong because Tua going out and having to miss all those weeks, and they couldn't get those W's. But this is the second loss in a row for the Dolphins on a field goal since Tua has come back. They lost to the Cardinals last week, if people remember here. And the Bills continue their domination of the Dolphins, sweeping the season series. They are 7-2 right now. They've won 6 straight, 13-14, 9 in a row at home over Miami. This is their best 9-game stretch since 2020. The Dolphins, however, are 2-6. And Tua finished 25 of 28 for 231 yards and 2 touchdowns. Perfectly respectable stat line here, Winston, but you got to ask questions about this situation now. I mean, if they lose a couple more games, what's the point in playing him this season anymore with those concussion issues? What are your thoughts here coming out of this game? Do you buy the Bills being world beaters here again, or do you think this is just a victory of a division rival and they move on and we'll see what happens still with them going forward the rest of the season?
I mean, it's not like the Dolphins couldn't, in theory, surge back, but I'm already thinking in terms of maybe you just pull your foot off the gas, man. 2-6, like the 7 seed is 5-4, so it's only 2 games. But look at what the Bengals just did. They clearly feel like they like you have Joe Burrow there, so he's gonna make it happen. They didn't even have T. Higgins play, so there's that. We'll see what the Colts do now by pulling Richardson and putting in Flacco. Aaron Rodgers has a long way to go with the Jets to make something happen, but that was a good win off of a playoff team. So I definitely think that they're going to be in so you're not out of it, but I don't know, man. I'm like, shit, just give the man more time to heal, and it is what it is. But no team is going to actively go, we're done. You know what I'm saying? That's not happening. They're gonna try. I just think even if you make the playoffs, you ain't beating none of these teams that are currently in. Like if it ended today, let's say you just happen to take the Broncos spot. You somehow pulled it off. Everything else remains the same, right? You play the Bills again at home in January. You're not winning that game. You're not. And let's say you get through that, right? Most likely then you play the Chiefs. You're not winning that game. So I'm not saying don't try. But there's a small part of me that's kind of like, why even put Tua in that position right now?
Yeah. Listen, the next few games, here's what Miami has. They are at LA. Okay. That could go either way. You can argue that go either way. Then they play the Raiders. The Raiders are a shit show right now, as we're going to talk about a little bit later. So maybe you get a victory there. Then they play New England. Okay, maybe you get a victory. But then you've got Green Bay, possibly a reinvigorated New York Jets team, a Houston Texans team that's fighting for a better position in the playoffs. Then you've got the 49ers and that insane defense, then the Browns, and then the Jets again. So for me, if I lose 2 to 3 more games, man, I got to shut him down. Like I just don't want to take the chance, for God's sakes.
One more. I think if you,
you think 2-7, then that's it.
Here's the thing: if you lose another game before December, shut it down.
Right. Yeah,
because
yeah.
I honestly believe that if you lose another game before December, you're I promise you, looking at the Bills, let's look at their schedule just super quick, because like the easiest path to try and do it is division, right?
Right.
And you're pretty far behind right now at
Yes.
2-6 to 7-2. So you would essentially need Buffalo to drop 4 games. It's possible when you look at their gambit. I mean, I think they'll beat the
Sure.
Colts handily, and Chiefs, Niners, Rams, Lions. That's
It's a hell of
murderer's
a
row
money
in
for it.
a
Yep.
certain way,
100%.
right?
100%.
But if, let's say, they win even 2 or 3 of these, so they beat the Colts, they give the Chiefs their first loss, they lose to the Niners, but they beat the Rams, right?
Yeah.
Then you're looking at a situation where odds are they're not gonna lose out. They'll beat the
Right.
Patriots twice. They'll most likely beat you're not getting out that way. And again, just looking at the standings,
Yeah.
you pretty much have to win out. Most like the worst that teams typically are that make it to the playoffs like that are gonna be like what would it be, 11-6, 12-5.
Yeah.
You're trying to tell you don't have wiggle room. You really just don't have the wiggle room to do this, not when this many teams are dominant. Like, you're getting this most likely the Steelers and the Ravens and maybe even the Bengals. You're getting 3 teams out of the AFC North most likely, and you think you're gonna pull that shit off sitting right now at 2? I'm sorry. Maybe it would be smart of them. You like Tariq over anybody. If you think that this thing is coming off the wheels and you got an opportunity here, maybe you consider sending Waddle to Detroit and see if you can get a high-ass pick out of them.
Ooh,
and then that gives Waddle an opportunity to go win a chip. You can use that piece a little bit later to try and re-up for the next year or whatnot. I don't know. That maybe that would be something. I don't even think he's on. You're not going to send Tariq though. There's no like, come on now, don't do that. You know damn well that that's not going to happen. It could happen in the offseason, but they just paid him all that money, and the Chiefs ain't got the cap space to do that. I know you just paid Waddle too, but I believe his contract's a little bit friendlier, but I could be wrong. Hold on, let's see. Waddle contract.
Sean, don't you have enough receivers in trouble with the law? That's like, you don't want to bring Tyreek Hill to your thing after Rashee Rice in his situation, for fuck's sake. You don't want to bring him to KC.
No, they can't afford. I don't know Detroit's cap space, but Waddle got a fucking heavy ass contract too. Jesus, 16 and 23 of the next 3 years. Well, I take it back. I don't think Waddle's going anywhere. But
no, that's good money. That's good money. Why would he leave? Exactly. Well, you get paid. You see what happens in that situation. But we'll see with Miami. It's an unfortunate situation with Tua, because I think a lot of people were excited about Tua with Miami, especially after what happened last season. We're excited to see what he can do this season, but that concussion has derailed their entire season, and who knows? And everyone's like afraid that he's going to get another one. So we will see. But shout out to the Bills Mafia, feeling good about themselves. So shout out to them. We'll see what that leads to. All right, let's move on to the uncomfortable section of the show here. The Atlanta Falcons behind Kirk Cousins threw 3 touchdown passes, and they first place in the NFC South here. Atlanta Falcons handed the Cowboys their 3rd straight loss, 27-21. Cousins was 19 of 24 for 222 yards, including completing 13 passes in a row at one point. He had scoring plays of 9 yards to Drake London, 36 yards to Darnell Mooney, 11 yards to Ray McLeod. I mean, maybe the greatest name in football right now. The third 3 TD game, and this is the 3rd game this season where he's thrown 3 touchdowns for Atlanta. Pretty amazing stuff here. The Cowboys tried to rally behind Cooper Rush after Dak had gone out with that hamstring injury. He had been 18 of 24 for 133 yards and a touchdown. Rush guided an 86-yard drive in the closing minutes, capped by a 40-yard touchdown pass to Jalen Tolbert, a 2-point conversion, but the Falcons recovered the onside kick to pretty much knock this out. Look, the Falcons look good. Dallas going the other direction, but the big story here is it looks like Dak Prescott is going to be out for weeks with a hamstring injury. So, Winston, what are your thoughts about this game, and what are your thoughts about this injury to Dak? Because CeeDee Lamb looks like he's going to be fine, and Micah might be coming back. So your thoughts overall on your Cowboys team in this game?
I am scared that we're going to start leveraging pieces. I think because you
mean trade? You mean trade?
I think so. And my fear, my because you've just resigned that this is probably it for the season.
Yep, probably.
My fear is that you're going to let go of players that I am huge fans of. There's a possibility they try and trade DeMarcus Lawrence because he's coming back. If you can get something out of it, in a team that's looking for someone on that D line,
Yeah.
I pray to God they don't let Diggs go, but I could see some shit like that where they let him go, or even Deron Bland. I hope you don't do that either, but I could see that too, since he'll be back sooner than later. I am genuinely afraid that you're going to let go of players that I really have a lot of respect for, because again, the only roster issue I see, truthfully, is at running back. You went and brought to know that Elliott didn't play because of disciplinary shit, because he was missing meetings or showing up late. And this was something he did back when he was like a star. So now that he's back as a vet, he's not going to change his behavior now. So there you go on that. And he didn't even fucking produce. So it is what it is. But the fact that all of that's kind of going on and you feel like you're going to have to go to the ground, I'm afraid they're going to let Zach Martin go, which bums me the fuck out. I wanted him to be a life longer, but I also don't blame him if he needs to go the way of like DeMarcus Ware and be like, let me go win a ring with an actual team. Thank you for your service. I hope they don't, but I could see them doing that. There's just I can see something like that happening. And the funny thing is, we didn't need to be here. If you had made the proper acquisitions in free agency, if you had gotten rid of this lame duck coach and let the one that was actually leading us to great defensive stops and victories and tight games, if you had done that, the rush defense still needed help. But guess what? You guys are actually halfway decent at stopping the rush. You could be better, but you're halfway decent at it. And while your Legion of Boom-esque, secondary is doing the same shit that the Cowboys were doing last year. Clearly, he knows how to do that the personnel was there and got people excited. If you had done these things properly in the time that you're supposed to, if the regular season is for the players and the coaches, the offseason is supposed to be for the front office. That is where you have your Super Bowl moment in the draft and big splash signings and hiring the right staff. And you didn't do any of that. So now you're going to essentially have to take it out on the team in order to do this. It's fucking frustrating. So here we are. As far as the Falcons, cool. You're first in your division. You have an easier schedule than the Buccaneers. You were the third place team, so you have a third place schedule. Yeah, so true. You know what I mean? Like I mentioned with the Eagles needed to figure out who they are. I tried to tell y'all the Saints weren't good. Yeah. That's another team with a very talented roster, but the coaching was terrible. And we'll talk about that, but that's where you got that victory over the Saints. The Buccaneers game was an OT knockout dragout. That really could have gone either way. Yeah. I expect you to beat the Panthers. But the Falcons have had a kind of a cupcake schedule so far with a few games you need to worry yourself about. So of course they're going to have a better record than Tampa Bay at current.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It's going to be interesting because you look. 6-3. This is the best they've been at this late in the season in terms of their record since 2016, which is when they went to that Super Bowl, right? So they're looking good right now. They're going to play at New Orleans next. They'll probably get a victory over that team. It's because God knows what you got out of that team now with a new coach coming in. Then they're at Denver. That could be a tough test for them, kind of with that defense and with Bo Nix here. Who knows what they've got?
And because Sean Payton knows them. You got to remember, he coached in Atlanta or in New Orleans forever, so he knows how Atlanta moves.
He knows how Atlanta moves 100%. Then the Chargers, which could be a very, very tough game. The Chargers are quietly putting together a good season. Then they're at Minnesota. That's going to be a hell of a game between those two. Then they're at Las Vegas. That's probably a victory. At the Giants, or taking on the Giants at home, probably a victory. Then they play us and in Washington. Kirk Cousins coming back to Washington with Atlanta. That could be a very, very interesting game. So I think Atlanta,
but also it's all fighting for your life. You got to remember, because at that point, I think the Eagles will have caught up to you. I think you still win, but they'll be caught up. So every game will matter for you. I think
100%.
Atlanta.
It's going to be I think Atlanta wins the division because I just think Tampa Bay now has shown themselves to be way too Jekyll and Hyde. Kirk is a better quarterback than Baker, and Kirk has the experience. So I think he has the team in the right position. I think they'll get into the playoffs, maybe sneak a win or two in the first rounds. We will see, but I think they look good right now. I just
one.
Dallas.
They're not winning. The Falcons are not winning 2 playoff games.
I don't know, man.
Let's be really real.
Every time the Falcons have gotten to a Super Bowl or have gotten into a position to be in it's been like nobody saw them coming. Nobody saw them coming. and they did against Minnesota, and then when they just went against the Patriots a few years ago. So I don't know, Winston. I'm just saying I don't know.
I mean, look, if we look at this where they whoops, how did that happen? Let me go back here. If we look at it right now, right? They are third. So they would play the 6th place team. They would play the Eagles. You're telling like they're if they're winning that game, they're barely winning that game. Let's be real.
I think they beat.
If they're winning that game, they are barely winning that game. But let's say you do that, right? And let's say that in that case, the Washington would play the Packers. Ooh, I don't know if you guys win that game. I don't even think so. Then let's say the Packers win that, right? So then the Packers would play Detroit, and then it would be 5-6. So then you've got probably the Vikings or the Cardinals. If it's the Vikings, you're losing. If it's the Cardinals, you might win that game. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just matchups and how that goes. I'm not giving them 2 games going to the NFC Championship for like a game. Hell no. Like,
I just like Kirk. I like him as a player.
I know you do, but come on, man.
I don't trust him in the playoffs, but I like him as a player. All right, speaking of the Commanders, let's move on to that last game here in the first block of our show. Jaden Daniels led the Commanders to a 27-22 victory over the Giants. I mean, it wasn't Jaden necessarily making incredible plays and, commanding drives or whatever. It was a lot of the running backs who are taking on the roles here. 3 different running backs running for the Commanders after Brian Robinson was ruled out during warmups. Austin Eckler was fantastic in this game. But Daniels threw the right passes at the right time to keep us ahead, even when the Giants were coming back, when Daniel Jones had that inspirational run into the end zone, and then Brian Daboll, in all his stupid wisdom, thought he'd go for 2 when they totally didn't need to go for 2 in the third quarter and ended up screwing the Giants down the road. We got the victory done. This was like a professional victory. Like, we were the better team. We came in, we dealt with their blows, and we kept coming back and scoring and got the victory, swept the Giants here, 7-2. I think it's the best we've been since 1995 record-wise. So pretty incredible stuff here for the Commanders. But, I mean, there's going to be bumps in the road. Every game is not going to be easy. So I think this was a good victory. And it could have been a letdown against a divisional rival after that Hail Mary pass last week that got us the victory over the Bears there, Winston. And they handled their business calmly and professionally and got on out of there, man. So what are your thoughts about both of these? Well, Giants, I mean, they're done, right? And Daniel Jones, how much longer until they trade him or get rid of him or dump him? And what's your feelings on the Commanders?
If I thought that a 2-6 team should shut it down, a 2-7 team in a division where both the Commanders and the Eagles exist, you're done. You're done. You're absolutely done. Win a couple games for your mentality. Try and win out as best you can for Daboll, because I'm assuming his job is done. But the only person that should really be fired is the GM. How on God's green earth, especially when you go and watch Hard Knocks, and it was clear that Saquon didn't want to leave.
No,
but they weren't willing to legitimately play ball with him. So he said, all right, well, I'm going to go where I'm loved and not tolerated. You know what I'm saying? Like, and look what's happened. The prodigal son returns to Philly, and he is out here just embarrassing fools. Yeah. And I like Tyrone Tracy Jr. I think that he actually is about to be a star for New York, but not a Saquon Barkley level star. You know what I'm saying? Like,
they've got stars. Malik Neighbors and Tracy, those guys are good on the offense. You got to get a better quarterback, though, man.
Mm-hmm. So truthfully, the Giants, in my opinion, would be like, can you imagine what they would have been if it had been Saquon and Malik there? Oof. And again, that's not taking away from Tyrone Tracy, but can you imagine what they would have been with the 2 of them? Because now you genuinely have somebody in the deep threat in Malik who can do crazy things that take some of the pressure off of Saquon, and it's not just him having to do it alone.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones getting him the ball will still be somewhat of a problem, but like he clearly has done it enough that Malik already looks like a superstar. So like this would be a very different season all around if you don't let him go. And as far as you guys, like I said, I think you have the division. I think you're gonna have to scrap the Eagles for it, but I think you have it. This is where health Dan Quinn keeping his consistency and not letting that 28-3 anything kind of get into his head.
Yeah.
And if you can get enough experience with some of the folks that are there to get you to the prom, like who knows, maybe you go deeper than one win in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. You know, and Daniel Jones is another loss this week because Kay Adams came out and said that she was not dating him on the podcast with Shady McCoy. So, you know, this two L's in 1 week for Daniel Jones. That's a rough situation to deal with for sure. But yeah, shame overall for the Giants because
I didn't know who that was. What? Oh, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, Daniel Jones, bro. Where is what's his name? We talked about him last week. Tommy DeVito. Put my boy Tommy DeVito in, bro. It's time. It's time.
Tommy's not even on the roster anymore.
Yes, he is. He's the backup.
Is he? Oh, I thought he delivered me pizza last week.
He's the second quarterback, and the third backup is Drew Lock. Put my boy Tommy DeVito in, bro. It's always sunny in fucking Brooklyn, baby. Put in Tommy DeVito.
It can't be true. Tommy was delivering my pizza to me last week. There's no way he's still on this team. That's amazing. Wow, I guess he is. But yeah, I don't think they're that far away from being a contender.
Huh? Sorry, I think your camera went out, or is that me?
Oh shit! Again, sorry about that, guys. I've been having some issues with the camera. It just goes out after an hour. Here we go again. Let me bring my other camera up. So go ahead and keep talking there, Winston.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah. I'm genuinely just surprised, just kind of seeing how this is going. That I don't think anybody expected you guys to be where you are at this particular moment.
Yeah,
and I think that everybody is pleasantly surprised. And I think the other thing about it, by the nature of how bad y'all have been for a while, by the nature of your culture changing by not having Dan Snyder, by the nature of Dan Quinn actually being somebody that people kind of like to root for, but especially Jaden. Jaden just has this thing where he oozes charisma, but in like a wholesome way. You know what I'm saying? Like,
he is silky smooth. Like, it is unsettling. I've never experienced this as a fan of this team, to see a quarterback back there who is just relaxed. He scores, great. He doesn't score, great. We'll get him next time. There's no rattling this kid. He doesn't make bad throws. It's amazing. And he's calm in that pocket, figuring out where to go. And he seems to know when to run and when not to run. And he's learning to slide correctly. Like, all of it is working in such a good way that all of us who are Washington fans are like this. When is the other shoe going to drop? Like, we keep waiting for the dream to be over because it's tough for us to believe in someone like this. But he just
want to hope this isn't Linsanity. You want to hope this isn't Linsanity.
Yeah.
This is instead, Jalen Brunson. And it's like, no. This is a star. And like, I'll tell you what Jaden reminds me of. Jaden genuinely reminds me of Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes, like, fused into one quarterback. I don't think that he has the crazy intangibles that Patrick does, where Patrick is just on another planet. But he might get there. I honestly don't think there's anybody in the league that is that close to being the literally untouchable person that is Patrick. There's some damn good quarterbacks. Don't get me wrong, but Patrick's just in a weird stratosphere that, like, it's going to be really hard for anybody to get to, right? But that being said, he reminds me of the play of, say, a Russell Wilson peak Legion of Boom, but better. But then take the coolness of Mahomes, because the one thing that like the wholesomeness per se of Wilson, but not in like a way that people call him corny. In a way that, like, they genuinely are like, nah, man, he kind of cool. You know what I mean? Like, he's the nerd in the hood that they're like, nah, everybody fuck with Jaden though. He kind of cool though, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? They were like, oh, his mommy said he got to go to bed. It's just like, nah, let my nigga chill. He's good. He good. Like, you know what I'm saying? That is the vibe that Jaden Daniels gives off. So,
yeah, I know it's insane to watch, and I think for me, I don't compare him to any of the current quarterbacks because I don't think he matches any of the current quarterbacks completely. I think he's the second coming of Randall Cunningham. That's what I see. That kind of confidence in the pocket and that ability to move within the pocket when he needs to, when stuff breaks down. He's not as erratic as Randall could be with the ball, but he's certainly as silky smooth. And Randall was pretty chill as a quarterback emotionally as well. So, I mean, he has that kind of element to him, but I think he's a great pocket passer who knows when to run. And that's a rarity in the NFL, man. That's a rare.
I agree, but that is why I put him in the air of like a hybrid of Patrick and
Totally.
Wilson, because the one thing Wilson did really well, even though he was like on the shorter side, stay in the pocket, move your feet. Oh, it's broken down. Now I'll use my legs. Like he didn't do that right away in the first couple games, and that's why y'all were like, bro. And I think he saw what happened with Tua, and he said, I don't want that to happen. So I'm gonna actually start doing what I'm supposed to be doing here. And that's why I kind of feel he's a splitting of the difference, because he's not doing the Mahomes magic shit, but he is having that same kind of composure of the two of them. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I get that comparison. But the Randall Cunningham is a good one. That's a good comparison.
I think the injury has woke him up. Like, hey, bud, but I know you thought you could take it, but here's a rib injury simply because you got tackled from behind. Understand what we're saying. And so he's figured it out, which I like, whereas RG3 was too stubborn to do the right thing, which frustrated the shit out of me. All right, let's get into the rest of the games here. Sam Darnold threw for 3 touchdown passes in the second half as the Vikings overcame 3 turnovers to beat Joe Flacco and the Colts here, 21-13. Flacco making his return as a starter for the Colts. Only 13 points. Yikes. Garrett Wilson makes an eye-popping catch here to help the Jets and Aaron Rodgers beat the playoff bound Texans from last season, 21-13, snapped the 5-game skid. Even Davante Adams got involved in this game. So a lot of people now are thinking that maybe the Jets have turned things around. We will see for sure. Justin Herbert threw 2 touchdown passes. The Chargers clamped down on Jameis Winston in a 27-10 win over the Browns. Demarcus Robinson's one-handed catch in overtime gave the Rams a 26-20 win over the Seahawks. This was a great fourth quarter, the Rams and the Seahawks. It was an awesome back and forth between 2 division rivals. Chuba Hubbard ran for 2 touchdowns, and Bryce Young leads a winning drive, for God's sakes, as the Panthers beat the Saints 23-22. Joe Burrow tied his career high with 5 touchdown passes in a game as the Bengals got their first home win of the season, destroying the Raiders 41-24. Nick Folk kicked a 25-yard field goal in overtime to help the Titans edge the Patriots, and Arizona beat the Bears 29-9 for the 3rd straight win for the Arizona Cardinals. So what to talk about from these games? What stands out to you? What do you want to discuss here, Winston?
You can go first, just because the game I want to talk about is one that led to a firing this morning. So, like, I'm happy to kind of roll that into that. If you want to pick something
that works. Else. Yeah. I think for me, I got to talk about the Jets, right? I mean, to me, this is where the conversation begins and ends, and you wonder where Aaron Rodgers and this team goes. This is a very good victory for them. Now, it was Thursday night. What condition were the Texans in? Is this a fluke of a victory? I don't know, but this is a much needed win they needed to have over a team that a lot of people have already penciled in to be in the playoffs in the AFC. So the fact that they got the victory, and it wasn't some squeaky win, like they got the victory. They handled the Texans throughout the game. The defense came to play. If this team starts to believe in itself, the Jets could be a scary, scary team if they've turned it around at just the right time. I don't know. This could be a fluke. They could go on another 3-game skid, and that's that. But it could be quite possible with Hassan Reddick coming back now, with Davante Adams in the fold, and Aaron Rodgers doing his thing, who's been consistently playing well for the most part over the last few weeks, getting better and better each week. The Jets now look like a possible, what do you call it? Like a dangerous team to play here. If they make the playoffs, I don't think anybody will want to play them first round in the playoffs, for God's sake. They're not going to win the division. I think the Bills are taking that by miles, but they will get in as a wild card and could be really dangerous for anybody to play. So do you believe in these Jets after this victory, or do you think this is a bit of a fluke?
Look, you're never going to count out a multi-time MVP and a champion. I do think that his best years are behind him, but if he can keep it together, especially with those 2 weapons at receiver, plus Bryce Hall at what it is, like, this is a good team they beat here. Now, mind you, a good team missing their top 2 receivers. You could make the argument that Stephon was the 3rd receiver, but he still had number 1 receiver ability. It's just that when you have Nico Collins and Tank Dell, you're kind of adding him into a 1-2 tandem that already works exceptionally well. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you're down 2 of your star receivers. You're hopefully getting one of them back. Like, one's done for the year, but you're hopefully getting the other one back in the next week or so. So, like, they're depleted. They're genuinely depleted. So, take what you will from it. But I for Haskell's sake, because I love my boy Ed Haskell. I hope maybe this is some sort of turnaround for the Jets, because they certainly, I would make the argument, have not earned it presently. But if they start putting together like a string of good play, who knows?
I think they have a bunch of winnable games here. Like, they're playing Arizona next. I know Arizona's on 3-game win streak, but you don't know what you're going to get with Kyler Murray. It's in Arizona, but do you take Kyler Murray over Aaron Rodgers? Probably not. So we'll see what we're going to get. I think that game is going to let us know where the Jets are. That game against Arizona is going to let us know where the Jets are. Then they play Indianapolis at home. Then they play Seattle at home. Then they go to Miami, which who knows who's going to be the quarterback by that point. So that's a possible winnable game. Then they play at Jacksonville. That's a winnable game. They play the Rams at home. That could be tough depending on the situation with the Rams and how they're coming across country and what have you. But then they're at Buffalo. That's probably a loss. And then they're back playing Miami at home. And that could be to get into the playoffs. And again, we don't know who is going to be quarterback in Miami. So there is Ed just said they have to go 6-2. I think 6-2 is doable when you look at the last 8 games on their schedule. I don't think it's impossible for the Jets to go 6-2. Will it be enough? I don't know. But certainly 6-2 is not out of the realm possibility for these Jets if they've really turned it around. So, yeah.
I mean, yeah, but again, no. 7th place in the AFC right now.
Yes, not bad.
5-4. It's 5-4.
2 games.
So if you lose 2 more games, that puts you at 8. So you're hoping that the worst team that is currently in the playoff loses at least 4 games. That is a tall order. That is a tall order to be like, nah, you're going to drop 4 more of these bitches after you've already dropped 6. That is the only reason why I don't even know if they make the playoffs. You do have some winnable games here that is asking a lot.
9-8. 9-8.
You essentially need to only potentially lose to the Rams and the Bills, but you got to play the Dolphins twice, but they're not necessarily going to shut it down, and that's going to be a problem.
Could be.
Technically, the Cardinals are the first place in their division, so depending on what Kyler Murray you get, that's going to be a rough game. You got to deal with the Seahawks. I know they just had like a rough loss, but they're still the Seahawks, so like they've been doing these things. So like, that's a tall order. Yeah, we'll see. If you could convince Hassan Reddick, if you can finally pay him his motherfucking money and get him involved, maybe you will. I don't know, but that's a lot to ask.
Well, because all the teams around them under the Chargers are shaky, in my opinion. The Broncos, you don't know what you're really going to get with Bo Nix and that team going into the back half of the season. The Colts, I mean, they're just hanging on by a thread, vacillating between Richardson and Flacco. That's an unstable situation overall. The Bengals, I think, are going to get in there for sure. They're going to turn it around and get into these playoffs.
To me, that's number 7.
Right. But then Tennessee, Miami, Cleveland, Jacksonville, Raiders, Patriots, I don't think those are going to challenge you. So you're in the mix being at 10 right now where you're at 3-6. Absolutely. You're in the mix, but things need to happen for you to get into the secure position of the playoffs for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But to that point, I have more faith in Burrow and the Bengals because of the consistency of his play over the course of these years, despite his team dragging him down. Whereas Aaron Rodgers, in a lot of ways, or the quarterback play in general for New York, has actually been the reason why they have been bad. So like, he obviously played well in this game, and if he continues to do that, great. But because you have so much to overcome in the loss column, and they've got a 1-game head start against you, I don't know, man. I don't know, but who knows? Who knows?
The NFL's crazy like that. All right, let's move on to the thing you want to talk about here, Winston. You brought up. So, shall we talk about the Saints firing Dennis Allen?
Let's do it.
Go ahead.
So just to give you some stuff here real quick. Yesterday's game, the Saints outgained the Patriots by the Panthers by 150 plus yards, ran for 150 plus yards, and won the turnover battle. Over the last 20 years, teams that have done this have gone 275-0. That now stands at 275-1. To what they are the now only team with that stat line over their opponent to lose.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show how bad this team is, including the fact, and this is what's so funny, someone pointed out that Dennis Allen got fired as the Raiders head coach with Derek Carr as his quarterback. So what did he do when he got down to the Saints? He went and got Derek Carr as his quarterback. Like, it just is kind of crazy to me that you want to talk about another team that on paper is insanely stacked. You have turned Chris Olave into the second coming of Michael Thomas as far as like these injuries. Like, you kept putting him in harm's way. You threw him one ball that got him lit up and had to be rushed to the hospital because you put him in danger with that throw. This is just what this tandem of DA and DC has done.
Yeah.
You literally have just set this team up for absolute just self-destruct. Like,
This is Olave's. He just got crunched. It was immediately out. Yeah. I mean, and they were complaining. It's amazing that the Panthers players were complaining.
And they like that's a bad hit. Yeah. But like, he has caused this team to just unravel. And to the point that there were talks about Kamara potentially being traded, like that maybe Dallas would make a push to get Kamara.
Oh, yeah.
But Kamara said, nope, I'm a live and die in New Orleans, man. That's what I like. I love this team. I love this city. That's what I want. And I'm happy for him to feel that way. And now that the coach is gone, maybe you can do that. But you look at the tandem of Shaheed and Olave. You look at Kamara and what he's been able to do. That Taysom really still, everybody thought the gimmick would be up, but he really has become the Swiss Army knife that can do kind of everything. Really is a jack of all trades. Wherever you need him to be, he'll be there. This defense that actually is pretty damn stacked, and you're probably going to end up losing. Marshawn Lattimore will probably might end up going. Like, you got Tyrann Mathieu, who has always been consistent, and didn't he win a chip with Kansas City? Like, so you got championship pedigree there. You have a team that should be the cream of the crop and should be dominating their division, but because of how it's been led, that's why this coach is gone. And he needs to be gone.
I don't think he'll ever be a head coach again. Yeah,
I think that he could be a coordinator, but I don't think he has the steez to be a head coach. And I think the thing that sticks out to me that really just explains who he is as a head coach with this team. Jameis did that thing. It was very famous. There's a lot of pundits and people that are like, you don't do that, man. Like, I can't believe Jameis did that. How dare he? And because of his wild card status and other situations and how he's been, they wanted to give him shit for helping his teammate get his roster bonus for scoring a touchdown on the season, right? But he did that because he was looking out for his team, and the whole team backed him. Old players backed him, being like, it is what it is. And Dennis Allen, instead of saying something along the lines of like, hey, it wasn't what was initially called, but I understand why my quarterback did that. He was looking out for his brothers. Like, there is a level that we got to answer to, but I understand why he did it, and I respect my quarterback for making that decision for his teammate. Right. Nope, we didn't tell him to do that. I can't believe he would do that. He's terrible because he didn't want to get fired. He didn't want to look like a dick. Yeah. Instead, I think that was the day that he finally fully lost the locker room. I think that he fully lost them that day for pretty much just selling a player out from the butt and didn't let them do things like my homies who were big Saints fans that used to get Popeyes at away games, and they would have dance parties with wins and stuff, things that made them feel like a fun team and an environment to be in. And he cut all that shit off. Be like, no, we're going to get it together. Like, to be honest with you, as weird as it sounds like based off his attitude of Sirianni's ass was down in New Orleans, that this actually might have worked out together, where this would have been something that could make some shit happen. Yeah. Just based off of how he likes to roll and shit like that. I don't know. It's good riddance, I would say. Good riddance to Dennis Allen. You made good money. I hope you get another coordinator job, because I do think as a coordinator you've done good things, but I just don't think you got the steez to be a head coach, man. I
don't think so either. I think both. I mean, in both situations, like clearly Derek Carr and Dennis Allen felt like they had something going in with the Raiders before they were both unceremoniously let go, and Carr had that injury when he was having a career year, and they wanted to prove that they could do it again in New Orleans. You had time. You had 3 seasons. You went 18-25. You got to call it after a while. And the Saints don't do this. Like, this is only the 3rd time ever in their history, and the Saints don't have a great history of them firing a coach mid-season, and only one of them was then being fired. The other one was Jim Morris stepping down a few games into the season. So the Saints don't do this. The fact that they decided to do this, I think, speaks volumes of the fact that, as you said, Winston, he lost the locker room. He'd lost the locker room. I think the Chris Olave injury is another part of this thing with Derek. I don't think Derek's going to be the quarterback for much longer for these Saints, and they're going to let him go too. It's just they tried, it didn't work. In the end, it's done. You know what I'm saying? And so we'll see where the New Orleans Saints go from now. But I agree with you. Dennis is never going to be a head coach again. I think coordinator is fine, but never head coach again. And because he's a loyal guy, so people love that because he was loyal for the Saints for a long time. And so there's respect in the NFL for guys like that, but no effing way will he be a head coach.
Yeah. And then the last thing with this game before we get to the end of our show, really, I hope that this really didn't play well. I hope that this gave some confidence to Bryce Young because he's really in such a shitty situation with Carolina. He got the start. He made shit happen. He didn't give up, and he ultimately got the win. And I hope that this gives him a little bit of confidence, and he's able to put a good tape together to end the season. That ultimately, if Carolina does end up trading him, that he's able to use this last to be like, it wasn't me. It genuinely was the people that the situation I was put in that made me do this. And he goes and he has like as good of a career as he can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that 100%. All right, let's hit the last part, and then we'll get to these Streamlabs that have come through here, Winston. And that's the Raiders here. They fired their offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, after 9 games. It was his first year as offensive coordinator for the Raiders. They also fired their O-line coach, James Craig, and quarterback coach Rick Scangarello. Hope I'm saying that right. They were all in the first season with Vegas. Antonio Pierce said he was 100% behind the decision himself, and that he's going to use the next 24 to 48 hours to decide who will replace Getsy. I mean, Dennis Allen is hanging around out there. Maybe you could go and get him to be your offensive coordinator. But I think that all goes back to Antonio Pierce. I think the Raiders heard all the social media talk, and Antonio presented himself as this tough-ass guy. He's not that smart of a coach. He's been blown out so many times in-game decisions. Gardner Minshew is not the answer. Desmond Ridder is not the answer. So this is just a bad situation overall, and it's sad these coaches have to get fired 9 games into the season in order to spare their head coach. But he's on the chopping block now as well, in my opinion. What are your thoughts about this news here, Winston?
I think that the Raiders will, for a generation, see nothing but misery because you took away one of the most loyal fan bases. You took them out of Oakland.
Yep.
And just because, well, it's Vegas, baby, Vegas. I genuinely, for the sake of those Oakland fans who I love dearly and the way that they would talk about the Raiders, I genuinely hope that the ownership feels the burn for this. I need you to feel the burn of what you did to these loyal fans because they didn't deserve to have their team taken from them. And so I hope your little special dome just like they don't play in the dome though. They play somewhere else, don't they? They play Allegiant Stadium.
Allegiant Stadium. Yeah. It has a dome. It has a dome, but I think it's retractable.
Yeah, but it's not the LED one that's in the center of the strip or whatever it is. Right? The Sphere, whatever. I ain't been to the Sphere, bitch. I don't know what they're doing there. I don't know what they do there. It's just a giant ass piece of like technology just out there in the streets. I don't know.
Like 1,000 seats in there.
I literally don't know. I have no idea. I don't know, but that's it. That's it, and that's all, man. I think that I feel like karma's a real thing, and you shat on a bunch of fans that love their team dearly.
I don't disagree with you. Oh, breaking news. Garrett Cole and the New York Yankees are staying together. Garrett Cole signed a 4-year. He decided on Monday to remain with the New York Yankees on the 4-year, $144 million contract he opted out of on Saturday. So he will remain a Yankee without reaching free agency. So there you go. Garrett Cole coming back for the Yankees. That's the beginning. Then now Juan Soto. And then we start moving forward here, buddy boy, and we go get our title back. There you go. Wanted to let you know that about what's going on here. So in that situation. So there you go. Let's hit some Streamlabs here. We got 3 of them here, Winston. Fred Tastic says, showing my support for Game Time Bros. I always thought Vince Carter leaping over another player to dunk was awesome, but he didn't do it backwards the way Saquon did. Thanks for reading this. And of course, Winston, congratulations to Vince Carter being the first I think the first jersey ever retired by the Toronto Raptors over the weekend. So shout out to Vinsanity. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this? Vince Carter, could he have done it backwards?
Like would Vince Carter been able to jump over a defender and
then dunk the ball backwards, maybe.
Yeah, that's Vince Carter.
There you
Vince
go.
Carter.
Yeah.
There's no way that he would. It's Vince Carter.
Vinsanity. He was to his this was over the weekend. He became the first number retired by the Raptors ever in a halftime ceremony during Saturday's game against Sacramento. He's number 15. He said it's not just Carter 15 going up, it's all of us going up. It's funny how time heals all wounds, because I remember when Carter forced his way out of Toronto, and that was such a big deal. So to see them mending wounds is a good thing here overall for Vince, for sure. All right, see Matt B. What's up, Matt? He says Jared Goff heard all that talk of Jordan Love being the best quarterback in the division and said, I took that personally. Had his I took that personally moment. Now, what do you think, there? Do you agree?
Wait. Who did that shit?
Jared Goff. Do you think he sees himself as better than Jordan Love?
I would venture this, man. I would venture that he did need to get his confidence back, because imagine someone just being like, we give up on you.
Yeah.
And remember the struggles that it took him those years.
Yep.
But then he ultimately did it. And so I am totally here for him in that regard, that he eventually got to the promised land, and now he's got people like Eminem giving him love. So man, I think he did take it personally, and he just needed a minute.
Yeah, and look, depending on how it turns out for the next few years for Detroit, if Jared Goff gets himself 2 Super Bowl wins with Detroit with Dan Campbell, Detroit wins that trade. Because right now, Stafford has won the trade in our minds. But if Detroit goes on to win 2 Super Bowls, I think if they win the trade, I think they made the right move. Get a younger quarterback, a hungrier quarterback here who could still do it. He doesn't have an annoying wife like Matt Stafford's wife. And so I think this is all positive for Detroit overall. I think they got the better end of the deal. Even though Stafford has the Super Bowl victory, I think they got the better end of the deal long term, because I think Goff still has 5, 7, 8 years left in him as a top quarterback. So you could get yourself a Super Bowl or 2 by the time he's done in Detroit. So I love that for him, honestly. What Real Entertainment? Hey, what's up, dude? He said, just showing some love to the 2 brown men who make this space better. Aw. Hey, Winston, we'll trade you Winston for a 3rd-round pick. Rocha, keep killing the game. All love. Yeah, Winston, would you take Jameis Winston for a 3rd-round pick?
Hell no. Absolutely not. I have said this a million times. Look, Dak's done.
Yeah.
Dak has not been the immediate problem. Has he played like ass? Sure, but it's because he has been asked to do everything with only one legitimate target in CeeDee Lamb. He has no run game. The line keeps committing a lot of holding calls with Guyton, who you just got and just drafted. So that's always an issue. Cooks, nowhere to be found. Ferguson was hurt the first few things of the game. It literally just force the ball to CeeDee and see what happens. So I'm not mad at Dak. I'm mad that you did not do anything else to help him.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point. And look, Dak had this is the crazy part of the running game for the Dallas Cowboys this season. Dak, I think, ran for 23 yards on one of the plays there in the game. That's the longest run from scrimmage for any Dallas runner on the team all year. That is insane. That should not be what's happening for the Dallas Cowboys with their stable of running backs. It's insane. I agree. This is not on Dak. And I think smart and keen NFL observers can tell that it's not on Dak. I don't mean pundits like Stephen A. who are trying to make money going crazy on the Cowboys. I mean, legitimate analysts, I don't think, can blame Dak about this situation. This is about them not giving them enough weapons and not getting their job done, and the injuries. At some point, they all catch up to you. And McCarthy's coaching, which Des Bryant tweeted out. Bryant tweeted out saying the window is closed on McCarthy taking them to a Super Bowl. So if Des is telling you that, you're done, man. You're done. Yep. All right, there we go. Let's wrap it up there. We're at a half. Let's get going here. Winston, thanks so much for taking the time to be on the show today. I always appreciate hanging out with you, talking football, brother man, and all sports. Please let people know where they can find you and what you got going on.
Yeah, man. You can find me at the Swaggy Blurred. That's here on YouTube. That's on all the social platforms. I'm going to be doing a Blurred breakdown that's coming out later this evening. I haven't recorded it yet, so it might be kind of late in the evening, but just keep that in mind because I got to go vote. Other than that, tomorrow, starting at about 5:30 Pacific time, there will be a Blurs in the Hood election special. Jay and I will be on for a few hours. He potentially has a stand-up gig he has to get to, so we may not go all night as we originally planned, but me and him will talk that out and figure that out in just a little bit. But you got that. You got Capes and Cows on Friday. Well, I'll be there. Depending on if Rocha and I find time, we may or may not do a spill of tequila, depending on what's going on. But obviously, there's a lot happening right now. And then, the point is to get a blurred breakdown today, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, Wednesday will be interesting depending on how hungover I am, because Lord knows how we are in on blurs, especially in moments like this. There is a possibility that I might be a little fucked up. So I might need to take the day off, and I'm going to attempt to do that. But that's pretty much it, man. The only other thing that I kind of wanted to say that was really interesting is, am I crazy that Will Smith in baseball has won? Is it just it was the different Will Smiths that they won last five?
All three of them, different Will Smiths, have won 3 World Series in a row. Yes.
I thought it was 5 though, but it was the different Will, because there's a couple Will Smiths in the league, aren't there? There's the catcher, there's the pitcher. Maybe I'm crazy. I feel like I saw that somewhere that I just thought was an interesting.
There's the slapper.
Scenario.
I'm sorry. Come on.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
I hate you.
I hate you with all my heart.
Where there's a Will Smith, there's a way. 5 straight years with a title. That's right. You're right. Here's a incredible streak. A player named Will Smith has won the World Series ring for the 5th consecutive years. You said the Dodgers catcher, Will Smith. So they're the reliever for Will Smith there. So there's quite a few over the last 5 years. 5 Will Smiths have won the World Series. So you want to get Will Smith.
That is wild. You want Will Smith on your team if you're trying to win. Yeah, here it is. Okay, yeah. So, you had a Will Smith with the Dodgers in 2020. I believe that was the catcher. Then you have a Braves Will Smith. And it's the same one that was on the Astros, which is the same one which was on the Rangers. And then this Will Smith again won. That is crazy. So we'll see. Let's see if you guys get a Will Smith, if you could actually pull this off.
I'll make one of them change their name for God's sake to Will Smith. Come on.
Make Aaron Judge change his name to Will Smith. And then he's, like you said, he starts slapping these teams around because he certainly didn't in the World Series.
He won't drop the fucking ball on a catch, for God's sakes. But there you go. And as Winston said, go and watch the Blurs tomorrow night. And no surprise that Jay might not be able to go all night. He's an older man. He can't go all night like he used to. As for me, you can follow me at the Rocha.
I'm gonna let you deal with that shit. I had nothing to do with that. The words of John Rocha are the words of him and him only. But continue your plug.
Jay knows I give him shit. It's all love. I love Jay. So happy for all the success that's happening now. But I will be live as well tomorrow night. But choose wherever you want to go. We're all going to be hanging out, making sure we're not going straight into a dumpster fire of hell tomorrow night. So it's going to be a crazy. Well, maybe we'll all commiserate at some point in the whole situation. But as for sure, please subscribe to the channel down below. Thanks to everybody for watching. We appreciate it. Thanks for the Streamlabs. Thanks for the lively chat. Thanks to everybody who hangs out with us every week talking sports. We love it madly, and we love you. So take care of yourselves. Be well, and we'll talk to you next week with another brand new episode here of Game Time. Peace until then.